Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. They always tell you when you retire, you're going to have so much free time. They tell you that you're going to get bored. But if you look at the title of today's video, I can promise you one thing. I am too busy to be bored. In fact, my morning started with a literal sticky explosion. I woke up today with a nice, peaceful plan. I began by listening to Louise Hay's Listen When You Wake Up morning meditation. So I was still in bed when I was listening to the meditation. After that, I got up, went and brushed my teeth, stretched a little bit, and then went and left the bedroom to go for a 30-minute workout routine with Lauren from Senior Shape. I'll leave a link in the description. She's really great. You might want to check her out. Then afterwards, I made David's smoothie, and I was going to have my breakfast, drink my coffee, and get ready for a dental appointment. Seemed like everything was going well. Nice, quiet retirement morning, right? Well, I was wrong. I walked over to the refrigerator, opened the door, reached in to grab the jug of milk. When I pulled it out, my arm accidentally bumped the shelf on the inside of the door. The whole shelf gave way. Everything came down on that shelf. Before I could even react, there were condiments all over, a jar of marmalade, and a heavy glass bottle of maple syrup went flying. Thank goodness there was just a little bit maple syrup in this bottle, because it would have been even a bigger mess. It hit the floor. All of this stuff hit the floor and shattered into a million pieces. It was glass, sticky fruit, and thick syrup went absolutely everywhere. There's a big mess right at the base of the refrigerator, but there was glass all into the kitchen and out in the dining room area. But the worst part was that my dentist appointment was ticking down. I had under an hour before I had to walk out of the door, and I wasn't even dressed. I was still in my lounge pants that I was wearing when I worked out. So I looked at the mess, and I couldn't help but think of what Louise Hay had said in that earlier morning meditation. One of the things she said was to make sure you thank and bless your appliances. I hadn't done that, and now look what happened. If you've ever spilled maple syrup, you know it doesn't just wipe up. It gets really tacky, almost glue-like. And when it's full of all of those tiny shards of glass, broken glass, it becomes really precarious and can be really dangerous to clean up. So my first thought, my first instinct was to get the broom to sweep up all of those big pieces of glass. My daughter took care of most of that. She swept up most of those big pieces of glass. Then she left the room to go to work. Then I made the mistake of taking the broom to sweep up the rest of it. And this was the part that was the sticky, syrupy mess. Okay, so I took the broom, started sweeping it up, and, suddenly, no sooner than I do that than I realize, oh, great, there's all of this sticky syrup on the broom, on the bristles of the broom. So the broom was now a sticky mess. I realized right then that I wasn't going to be able to use the broom anymore. So I took it out to the porch outside where I was going to hose it down. But I was pressed for time, so I knew that I was going to have to do that when I got home. So the next thing was to get the vacuum so I could vacuum up all of those stray shards of glass on the kitchen rug and on the outer edges of the kitchen and the dining area, because like I said, this glass, it just went everywhere. But I didn't expect to catch all of the tiny pieces of glass. So, if you've ever dealt with broken glass and you've got those teeny tiny little pieces of glass that it takes more than a broom and it takes more than a vacuum. I knew that there was only one way that I was going to be able to solve this, and it was going to be the old-fashioned way, right? So I got down on my hands and knees with a damp microfiber cloth. I spent the next 15 minutes or so scrubbing the kitchen floor, wiping out the syrup, and carefully picking up every single piece of glass that I found so nobody else would step on it later, right? By the time I wiped down the kitchen floor and looked at the time, I realized I had lost my appetite for my breakfast and coffee. So I put my bowl of cereal and the coffee into the refrigerator. I took off my coffee slides because I was wearing them when I was working around the kitchen and the soles had gotten sticky. And I looked at the time again, and it was getting close to time to leave. I went back to my room, threw on my clothes, fixed my hair, put on a little makeup, and of course, I brushed my teeth and flossed because I was going to the dentist. I left the dirty rags in the sink and asked everybody to use the other side of the double sink. Then I left for the dentist office. So I arrived at the dentist office wondering if the kitchen disaster is a sign of how the day is going to go, right? So I walk into the dentist office hoping that I'm not going to need a crown. But the universe gives me a little sign, right? The universe gives me a little break. They had a candy dish with these little Ghirardelli chocolates. So I take a few of those chocolates to share with the family. And I love these little chocolates. But to be frank with you, I couldn't help but thinking that this is a way for the dentist to ensure repeat customers. Then the receptionist calls me to the back and says, "I love your blouse." This is the blouse I was wearing. In fact, I got it from the thrift store. I thanked her, and then I complimented her on her seafoam colored blouse. It was really, really pretty. It went perfectly with her long black hair. And I had planned on complimenting her about her blouse anyway. She just kind of beat me to the punch. But honestly, that one little compliment really changed the tone, really changed my mood. I was starting to feel a little bit more upbeat because it's amazing how a nice compliment can really turn a stressful morning right around. So I sat down in the dentist chair, feeling a little bit more confident about the visit and how that was going to go. Then came the second piece of good news. I had been dreading making this appointment. I put it off for months because it always seems like dentist appointments require something more than I'm always expecting. A little bit more work that needs to be done, a little bit more expense than I'm hoping for, right? So I was really thinking that I was going to need an expensive crown. But after the x-rays and the exam, the dentist looked at me and said, "Your tooth is chipped. We can do a filling to fix it." So between the compliment and my beige blouse and the good news from the dentist, I felt like I had won the lottery. Things were looking up. My day was starting to shape up better than it had started out. So I finally got back home, walked into the kitchen, and finally sat down to finish my breakfast and the cup of coffee that I was supposed to have, I don't know, like 3 hours earlier. So I reheated my coffee, and my grape nut flakes were a mushy mess, but I ate them anyway. At this point, I was feeling pretty energized and motivated to move on with my day. So after I boiled a pot of water for iced tea, I came to my desk to film this video. And this whole morning made me think about the questions so many people have about retirement. They're afraid they'll get bored. They're afraid they'll run out of things to do. But the truth is, life doesn't stop happening just because you stop going to a 9-to-5 job. There's always a project to tackle. a meal to plan, an unexpected mess to clean, or an appointment to keep. The real shift in retirement isn't that you have nothing to do, it's what you do with the time you have. Today was just an eventful Wednesday morning. Keeping busy as a housewife keeps me sharp, keeps me moving, and clearly keeps me on my hands and knees scrubbing floors. But the day isn't over yet. My next tour is waiting for me outside. I still have to go and clean up that broom. I still need to hose out that syrup. Still have to hose out the bristles of that broom, and hopefully I can get all of that syrup out. Plus, David's expecting me to keep him company while he repairs my truck. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today and listening to my morning saga. If you've ever had a kitchen disaster right before a major appointment, please leave me a comment below so I know that I'm not alone. And if you've enjoyed a peek into a very real, very unboring day in the life of a retired housewife, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a lot. I'm going to go tackle the broom now and see if David needs my help outside. Stay safe, stay curious, and trust your retirement journey. I'm Marlene with Rebel Retirement. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hey, you guys, please take a look around my channel. I have hundreds of videos on topics including Social Security, Medicare, how to get out of debt, pros and cons of moving, relationship issues, health topics, and more. And all of these videos are based on my experience and what I have learned in retirement. And I know that many people are worried about money in retirement, and this is exactly why Rebel Retiree and I created our just-in-time retirement series. And it's absolutely free, you guys, so it doesn't hurt to take a look at it. It's a mindset-based retirement planning strategy that eliminates waste and aligns your finances with your goals and values. With continuous improvement, you free up your resources to create an abundant retirement lifestyle. So I recommend viewing the playlist on this channel. And to get the full picture, visit our website, rebelretirement.com. And if you are nearing retirement and worried about your financial future, you're going to get a whole different viewpoint. See for yourself at rebelretirement.com.